Hey, what's up everybody? Jason Bent with Bent's Woodworking here. Today I'm just going to do a quick video review on a couple of Festool sanders. I am not in any way, shape, or form endorsed by Festool or any other company for that matter. I'm simply just giving my opinion and my views on what I feel about these sanders. And Festool seems to be a hot topic when it comes to tools due to the price. But I'm going to give you my impressions based off of I've used them now for a couple of months, what I think about them, and do I think that they're worth the money. So to start, I've got a Festool ETS 125 here, and I've got a Rotex 125 right here. So really the big difference between the two, they're both random orbital sanders. They're both a 5-inch disc. Anything that's classified as the 125 generally is the 5-inch disc from Festool, 150 being the 6-inch disc, and then Rotex actually makes a 90, which I believe is like a 3.5-inch disc. I'm not 100% sure on that though. This one is just a finish sander. This one right here is a dual purpose sander, and we'll talk about that more when I discuss that. So we'll start by talking about the ETS 125. So real quick, just to go over the features, anything on Festool that is green, most of you already know this, is some sort of function. And on this one, it's quite simple. There's two functions for this, on and off, and then you have the changing the speed setting, which this can be 1 to 6, just like any random orbital sander that you'd buy in any store. This one right here has the power button located right here on top. It has the dual function mode switch right here. If you push it to the left, it's the random orbital sander, finish sander. And then if you put it to the right, it's the more aggressive rotary sander. And then back here, you've got your speed setting, 1 through 6. Again, just like any other sander with adjustable settings. And then in the back, you have a green button, which will lock this head into place. And you can twist it and take it off and replace it with different heads, which again, we'll talk more about when I get into details on that. So this was the very first one that I bought. I bought it shortly after getting the track saw. I was so impressed with the track saw and the Festool MIDI dust collection system that I decided, hey, what's something else I can take a look at with Festool and see what they're all about. So I ended up getting this sander right here. This was not the sander that I originally was planning on getting. The one I was planning on getting was the ETS EC 150, which is the much more low profile. It's not so tall like this one is. And to me, looking at it, I just feel like it probably would have fit better in my hand and it would have been easier to use. So I went to the store, and if anybody that sells Festool, for the most part, any of the stores that I've been to that are Festool vendors, they actually will allow you to try out their tools. And so I went to Highland Woodworking here in Atlanta, and Highland Woodworking has pretty much everything that Festool has to offer, and will allow you to try any of them out paired up with one of their dust collection systems so you can give it a shot. So I tried the other one out, wasn't a big fan of it. I felt like it was actually harder to control than what I thought it would be. And I was up in the air about this because of its height. I always felt like, looking at it, I never used it before, I felt like its height would be a disadvantage and it would just be awkward to use compared to some of the other ones that I've used. Like DeWalt or Bosch or Makita or something like that. So I talked to the guy and I said, you know what, let me go ahead and try out the ETS 125. So we brought it over and I turned it on, and immediately I was impressed. It sits very, very well. The part that I was a little nervous about was I just felt like it was so high up it might be strange to control. That was not the case at all. It's a very smooth sander, and I was much more impressed with it than by the other one. The other one I felt like I needed to continuously apply pressure to keep it flat on the surface, just the way that the hose sat, and it just felt like it was pulling it back all the time. So I ended up going with this. And the guy actually tried to talk me into buying one of the Rotex at the time, and then I didn't really want to spend the $500 or $460, whatever it cost for the dual purpose. I said, you know what, I really just feel like I need a finish sander, so I ended up buying this. I didn't feel like I needed to take a lot of material off quickly as I have plenty of tools that, that will level things out. So I didn't really see the need for it. So I ended up just buying the finish sander, and it worked out good because of the price. This being the cheapest option, which runs about $190. So I ended up buying this, brought it back, was really impressed with it. And then I was encountered with a situation about a month later where I wish that I would have had a more aggressive sander to take off, to level out some more, an oak tabletop that I was doing, that I had a couple of spots that I feel like, I kind of needed to get aggressive, and I didn't want to spend all day using this finish sander trying to get to it. So I ended up going back and I ended up buying the Rotex. So first thing I noticed about the Rotex is its size and its heft compared to this. While this is tall, if you compare it to, say, this bottle of glue, it stands fairly tall. So, but it's still compact, it's still slim, it's still got the 5-inch disc, it's still easy to fit into small areas. So I got this, and this is much heavier, much longer, and quite honestly, it's a little bit more difficult to control than the ETS 125 is, especially with the hard disc on it, with the firm disc, which I'll talk about here in a minute when I talk about some of the extras that it comes with. It was a little bit of a learning curve, figuring out how to use this properly to where I wasn't jumping all over the page, especially in the rotary mode. So if you listen, it's in this mode, it's gear driven, which means it's extremely powerful, and it will definitely take off a lot of material very quickly. So you do have to be careful with it. But when I had that hard disc on to level out that tabletop, which it did a very good job at doing, it was definitely more powerful than regular finish sanders that I've used, as it should be, since it was in the gear-driven mode. Then you flip it over, and it's just a random orbital sander, just like anything else. Very easy to control, much easier than the gear-driven mode. So when I started using it on the tabletop, the reason I got it, and I got the addition of the hard pad, is because I wanted to make sure that that tabletop stayed relatively flat and smooth. And if you've ever used a finish sander before, you'll know that if you have some ridges or something that you want to bring down, the tendency is to focus on that one area either too long, or turning the sander and kind of just going back and forth over that area. And the result is you get those valleys, and it's not a perfectly smooth surface. If you were to do that with this on the gear-driven mode, it would very, very quickly make that valley. But the positive side to this additional pad, the harder pad, is that it keeps it more flat on the surface, therefore giving you a flatter surface. It doesn't have that wiggle room to where you can put too much pressure on one point or another, as long as you keep it flat on the surface. This is the one that it comes with, and this is just the standard, I think, medium or soft pad, and it does have a little bit more play. Both of them, though, I have no issue flattening the surface and making sure that it's flat. Obviously you need to be careful on those areas. Now, if you have a domino or a biscuit joiner or something like that, for the most part, if you do your mill work properly, when you go to align those boards, they're going to be fairly flat. But there's always that small little error, more so with biscuits than dominoes, just because there's a little bit more wiggle room with the biscuits, and sometimes you need to sand that down and take it down. And this sander will make very quick work of it for sure. Another extra that the Rotex came with is a edge protector, so you can put this on and you can run straight up against a wall if you're doing floors or baseboards or something like that, and it will prevent the disc from hitting it and digging into it, which I thought was a cool thing. I haven't really had to use it yet, because generally speaking, I use this mainly for tabletops, large flat surfaces. Now, why do I have both? Well, I bought this one first, and then I bought this one. Now, will this one do everything that this one will do? 100% absolutely, the answer is yes. However, I'm very glad with the way that it worked out now, because if I'm doing a large surface, I will use this and just change between the modes. So if I'm doing 80 grit, 120 grit, 220 grit, I may do the more aggressive setting up to 120. And then depending on the species of wood, if I decide to go much further than that, then I can simply change it over to the rotary mode. It takes it out of that gear mode and it spins and is used exactly like a regular random orbital sander, finish sander would be used. I do like that. It's not changing between your random orbital sander and your finish sander. So that comes in very handy. This right here though is great for smaller projects, and it's actually probably my go-to sander 80% of the time. I just use a more aggressive paper, work my way up. Obviously you can't be as aggressive with this. You know, if you put down a lot of pressure, it'll actually end up probably, you know, stopping this, and you're not getting the random orbital action. But for instance, this kitchen island I'm working on that's behind me right now, when I went back to sand like the face frame or the sides of the cabinet, this came in very, very handy. It's, you know, one-handed, very easy. Now in the finish mode, you can use this with one hand, but it's just larger and more difficult to fit in certain places. Plus you got the hose connected to it. To me, I like having the smaller sander, so it gives me the best of both worlds, really, that I have both of these. Effectiveness. So like any Festool product, one of the most impressive things about it is their dust collection capabilities. The dust collection on these sanders is absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal to the point where I don't even wear a respirator when I sand anymore because I don't feel the need to do it. Now, if I'm working with certain wood species, obviously that's a different story. But if I'm just doing oak or pine or something like that, I'll just use these sanders with my, you know, air filtration system on and the dust collection from Festool connected to it. So it is absolutely remarkable. I will do a test on a piece of oak that I have right here that's still rough on one side. I'll use this ETS 125 after I hook it up to the shop vac and just do a quick demonstration on the effectiveness of the dust collection. Before, I used to hate sanding. Like, it was one of my least favorite things to do. And since I have bought these Festool sanders, I actually enjoy sanding. It is not messy. There's no dust left behind. It's very, very, very little cleanup I have to do prior to actually applying any sort of finish. I don't have to blow everything off. It's remarkable how effective the dust collection is. I previously used these sanders with the MIDI Festool shop vac, but now that's dedicated to my Capex due to the fact that I was able to pick up the CT36 with a boom arm that I can just use basically at my assembly table that you see behind me and not have to move it around. Plus it gets the hose out of the way. And if you've used any Festool products, you can tell, or you know, that it is a little bit frustrating sometimes with those hoses and the design that they had. But the Festool dust collection with the boom arm took care of that problem for me. So one of the things that I see get asked a lot is, can you use regular sandpaper with Festool sanders? The answer is yes, you absolutely can. Why? Because this is simply a 5-inch hook and loop fastening device, Velcro. Any 5-inch Velcro pad will work on a Festool sander. What will not work effectively is the dust collection system, because the holes that are on the sandpaper line up with the holes that are on the sander itself. And it is extremely effective because of that. So yes, you can use the sandpaper, however it will build up and it will not be as effective with dust collection. You have the same problem you would with other sanders. Now, that being said, other sanders, do they have dust collection? Yeah, they have the 5 or 6 hole pattern, and you can hook them up to a vac, and they do a pretty good job of dust collection. So this is not the only dust collecting sander out there, but the effectiveness of it is remarkable. So in terms of sandpaper though, the Festool sandpaper, I buy the Festool sandpaper or a sandpaper, I can't recall off the top of my head the brand, but if you look at these, there's a million different holes in it, and this is compatible really with any sander, and all the holes just allow for better airflow. Both slightly more expensive sandpaper, but in my opinion, they're far superior to a lot of the regular, like Diablo or some other brands that you're gonna get. They last a lot longer. Perfect example is this is 120 grit sandpaper that has been on here for probably a month, and I have I still get excellent results out of it. I have not had to change it. When I bought this about 3 months ago, I bought this pack, and there's still 7 or 8 in here, and it was a 10 pack. So I haven't even had to dive into them yet. They just last a lot longer. With the other products, with some of my other random orbital sanders, there were times where I changed the pad before I even finished the tabletop, just because it was not cutting the wood as effectively as it was when I first put it on or halfway through. So yes, you're going to spend a little bit more money, but you're going to buy them a lot less frequently. And you can buy that sandpaper at any location that sells Festool, or you can order them online. So to me, it's worth it. I'd rather spend a little bit now and own them for a lot longer than constantly going out and buying new sandpaper. Now, with that being said, now I'm not saying that big box stores don't sell good sandpaper, because one of the best sanding pieces or devices that I have just happens to be this little Shopsmith sanding block that comes with Shopsmith sandpaper. And this sandpaper is far better than a lot of the other sandpaper that I've used. And I would actually probably try out the Festool paper that they sell, because they sell sanding blocks too, and just see if that makes that big of a difference. But this is excellent. You can buy that at Lowe's. And this comes in extremely handy in places where these will not come in so handy. So for the dust collection, like all Festool products, and one of the big features that I love about it is they're interchangeable with your dust collection, which makes it a lot easier to rotate through tools and not have to worry about setting up the different dust collection or different size hoses. So with the Festool ETS 125 that I'll do the demo with, on the back here you have the port for the dust collection. So I just take my hose, and there's some lines on there, and you just line the lines up and you push it on. Unlike some of the other Festool products where this piece actually goes inside of the dust port and actually turns, this one simply just slides on and you're good to go. Makes it very quick and easy to change out tools. The plug it into the back, and you simply rotate it clockwise, and it's locked in place. Now you're good to go. So this cord right here leads into the shop vac, and the shop vac has an automatic on switch. So once I turn this on, shop vac comes on. Once I turn this off, shop vac runs for 3 to 5 seconds, and it's extremely effective. It clears out any dust that's in the lines, and it leaves almost nothing behind. So I don't know if you'll be able to see real well, but if you look at my hand, there's nothing on my hand at all. No dust, nothing. And this is just a rough piece of oak. I'm just going to take it and do a quick demonstration, sanding it down. And I don't know if you could hear that still, that suction that's coming through it for about 3 to 5 seconds after. So now I'm taking my hand and I'm rubbing my fingers over this, and there's literally nothing on my fingers at all. And the surface is very, very smooth. That was just a quick sanding, and there is no dust left behind whatsoever. There's barely any actually on the sandpaper. The suction on it is fantastic. It also has variable suction, so you may not actually have to have this. Like with the CT36, it's got very strong suction, so it doesn't actually have to be on the highest setting for this device. And what actually ends up happening is you'll feel it, it'll pull it into the wood itself. And what you want to avoid is you don't want to have it too strong, because then it's just going to end up wearing your paper down faster because it's pulling that sandpaper harder into the wood. So you can adjust that until you get a nice happy medium. But there is literally absolutely nothing left, no residue whatsoever at all on this board. So that is one of my favorite things about these Festool sanders and the dust collection system. Now, can you use other dust collection system with them? Yes. More than likely, you're going to have some sort of special adapter that you either make, or I'm sure that someone online sells them. And bottom line is it's suction pulling in, so I'm sure it's going to suck the dust in just like anything else. Can I say it will be as effective as the Festool? I don't know. I did on my Capex have a rigid shop vac at one point. The dust collection was great. but once I switched to the MIDI and increased the diameter of the hose and shortened the length of the hose, it actually increased it remarkably. But that's going to be for another video when we talk about the Capex. So what I like and what I don't like about them. With this, I like everything about it, and there's really nothing that I don't like about it. I thought that the height of it would have been a disadvantage, but honestly, I actually enjoy it. I like it a lot. It doesn't change anything with the way I sand. I don't really have anything negative to say about this sander specifically. One thing that I do like about it though is I like how the dust collection fitting here actually kind of cants upward, so it kind of keeps your hose up, which was nice when I used the MIDI. Now that I have the boom arm, that's not that big of a deal, but it still comes in handy. The Rotex, what I like about it, I like the rotary mode. It's extremely aggressive. Again, slightly hard to control when you first use it, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually quite easy. It was a little bit of a learning curve. I'd say, I don't really know if I don't like anything on this either. Maybe the size, but at the same time, I kind of like that heft and the girth and the way that it's laid out, because it allows me to use two hands, one around the front here, and if I need to, I can use one hand. So again, this is an extremely good sander, very good dual purpose sander, kind of the one, one sander for most things. Would I recommend? Absolutely 100%. I haven't used anything Festool yet that I wouldn't recommend. But I would absolutely recommend either one of these. Now, further break down the recommendations though. If you're somebody who doesn't want to break the bank, but wants a very high quality, effective finish sander, one that's capable of extremely good dust extraction, I would recommend the ETS 125. Reason being, it costs about 190 bucks, and it's just phenomenal. The performance of this, and I know that some people might disagree with me on this, but it is better in my experience than a lot of the other sanders. I've used Skill, Bosch, Makita, Porter Cable, maybe not Makita, Porter Cable, DeWalt. And the last ones that I had were all DeWalt. And while they are effective at sanding, they are not as effective in the process. And a lot of that has to do with the sandpaper. But this it's effortless, and the dust collection on it is absolutely phenomenal. To me, that is the most important thing, since that was really my main focus recently in the shop, is really getting better control of my dust collection. And for this, you can't beat it. If you are somebody that does a lot of large surfaces like tabletops, and you want a more aggressive sander or kind of a, one size fits all, the Rotex is a great sander for that. Large flat surfaces, especially with the rotary mode, it's just a great sander to be able to switch so easily from one mode to the other. But if you were going to do that, I would recommend maybe going with the 6-inch model, which is the Rotex 150. Is the extra inch going to make that big of a difference? I don't know. I haven't used it. And if you have the money to spend, because this comes in at about 460 to 500 bucks, somewhere around there. So it is, quite a purchase, but you're getting two sanders in one, really. So yes, I would recommend both of them. If you have the money to spend, the Rotex is a great option. If you're not looking to spend as much money, the price for this sander I think is more than reasonable. I don't think either one of them are overpriced for what they do, and the benefits of dust collection alone, in my opinion, is worth the money with Festool products. But they're both very good. So I would definitely recommend both of them. And if you're looking for a good sander, then definitely look towards Festool or some of the other companies like Merca or something else. But definitely worth the money, and I'm very happy with my purchase. So that's all I have for this video. There'll be more videos to come on some other reviews of different tools that I have within the shop. If you have any questions about either one of these products, please go ahead and leave them in the comments section. and I will do my best to get on and answer them. Like, share, subscribe to my page, and I will continue to put videos out there that hopefully will help somebody that's in the market for tools or just looking for helpful hints on things that I learned during my time with woodworking and my experiences. So I appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Thanks.